You know what's even better than drinking a delicious International Delight iced coffee? Winning a brand new car to drink it in. Visit InternationalDelightCarsweeps.com for rules and enter through November 10th for your chance to win a new car plus a year's supply of iced coffee. No purchase necessary. Year's worth of product awarded as product and coupons. Valued at $978.20. Open to legal residents of U.S. and D.C., excluding Alaska, Connecticut, New Jersey, Nevada, Hawaii, Tennessee, and Wisconsin, who are at least 18 in age of majority. Ends October 10, 2024. Sponsored by Danone US LLC. For official rules, visit InternationalDelightCarsweeps.com.
Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish Podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of Schmurz Day, September 30th, 2024. On the show today, horror, plus listener questions, and a new Universal Orlando survey, but only if you promise not to tell anyone about it. Then in our main segment, Jim gives us the history of Mickey's PhilharMagic. Let's get started by bringing in the man whose health insurance is so cheap, he's got a $35 copay for Dr. Pepper. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
It's going well, but health insurance humor. I have to say, one of my favorite jokes in this field came from the late, great Rodney Dangerfield, who, by the way, when he died back in October of 2004, the Los Angeles Times did 2 full pages that recapped his career. But what was great, Len, is in between each section of where they told about this is what he did in television, this is what he did with film, they'd throw in one of his great...
Like a quote?
Yeah, one of the great one-liners. So it's like, for example, when I was a kid, I got lost at the beach. I asked the policeman to help me find my parents. I said to him, do you think we'll ever find them? And he said, I don't know, kid. There's so many places they could hide. But my absolute favorite Rodney Dangerfield joke is again, health insurance. It's like, I have terrible health insurance. Other people have Mutual of Omaha. I have Mutual of Murray. The difference between these 2 policies, if you lose a leg, Murray helps you look for it. So,
he was a genius.
He was a genius.
None of it would work today. Very little of it, but whatever. It's fine.
This is true.
It's fine. It's a different time. You got to judge people in the era that they lived, right?
There we go.
Jim, let's thank everyone who subscribes to the show over at patreon.com/JimHillMedia, including Jennifer Wiley, Bud Dixon, Jen Surma, Chris Whitney, Rachel Collins, and Brian Collins. Aw. Jim, these are the acting coaches for Universal Orlando's Halloween Horror Nights, whose job is to ensure exactly the right amount of scary from each monster at each haunted house. They say the best part of the job is getting to know the new monsters every year and seeing them grow their craft. The hard work is communicating to the monsters individually. For example, 2 of the 3 Barmy triplets are Stella Adler, and the other one is more Meisner technique. So you really need to meet the talent where they are. But through it all, they say the real thrills are the friends we make along the way. True story.
Wow.
Doug, all of you theater majors out there, this one's for you, baby.
There we go. Stella Adler and the Meisner. Wow. Okay. Oh.
Don't say that this show isn't well researched, okay. I'm telling you.
Deep cuts. Okay.
On to the news. All right, folks, the news is sponsored by TouringPlans.com. Touring Plans helps you save time and money at theme parks like Walt Disney World. Check us out at TouringPlans.com. All right, Jim, I went to Halloween Horror Nights last week, Friday, September 20th, and I want to tell a little bit about that because I had a great time. I checked into Cabana Bay for one night around 4 p.m. I should have booked it for 2 nights. Because the last thing I wanted to do when I woke up Saturday morning after Halloween Horror Nights was get in a car and go home.
Oh, yeah.
Had I booked for 2 nights, I could have had a leisurely breakfast. I could have floated around in the lazy river. So lesson learned there. The good news, Jim, is that old Len, the one who booked this room back in April, splurged on a Volcano Bay view room. So thank you, past me.
Okay.
Also, Jim, I think it's time for us to introduce a new show segment that I am calling For the Love of God, Please No. For the love of God, please no, I beg you. The online check-in desk at 4 p.m. is not the place to start asking your vacation planning questions. So while I was in the switchback at Cabana Bay, you know where that is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in the online check-in desks. This is people who have already put down their credit card, done all the work. They're just like, give me my room number and go. I'm in this switchback, Jim, and one of the families that's talking to one of the 2 people staffing the desk asked this question, Jim, at 4 o'clock.
Yep.
Friday afternoon. So what's the difference between Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure?
Oh.
I'm looking around like, I will give you a book for free if you just get out of the line. Like, please don't do this here now.
It's so interesting. When I was down at Universal, and again, the same thing. This would have been 2 and 3 years ago for a press event for Halloween Horror Nights. I was over at Endless Summer, and it was the same thing. It was the late afternoon check-in, and there's only 2 people working the desk. And and again, you just you know the people who are standing at the desk in front of you who are taking 20 minutes for some reason to check in, and you're laser beaming into the back of your eyes into the back of their head, like move.
I know I've used this line on the show, but I turned to the person next to me. I'm like, I've had relationships not last as long as this check-in.
Yes,
right. And I've said that before, but it's like let's just move this along. Anyway, I mean, credit to the Universal team members who were doing the check-ins because they were unperturbed throughout all of it, and I was pretty much instantly perturbed. But anyway, so I walked through the lobby to my room, Jim, and all of it was immaculate. Cabana Bay literally looks like it did on opening day. So the maintenance staff at Cabana Bay get top marks for this. Amazing work. It's all beautiful.
That said, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Cabana Bay. I mean, Nancy literally went to hotels like this in her youth. So we walked in and the tiny little bottles of shampoo and
is it Prel shampoo?
I want to say it's Prel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's definitely Zest soap. Yeah.
But then, and you walk in and you look at the lovely furniture and you look at the lovely sound, and then you go to sit on things, and it's from the Marquis de Sade collection. It's
firm. Everything's firm.
Very firm. All right.
The one thing I would change is I like a softer pillow. So the pillows that were on the bed, I ended up not using, but they have like a little decorative pillow that's flat. I ended up sleeping on that, which is fine. Well, you know what? I'm not going to complain about that.
I don't know. And I have actually reached this point in my life, Len, when I travel, I actually bring my pillows from home, which are, again, I have a giant cassava, a cinder block size head. So those pillows that have wheat husks inside of them.
Yes.
Which, again, always necessity. You open the suitcase and there's that thing from the TSA, the little note card that's like basically, what the hell was this?
We checked. What? I'm sorry your luggage took so long. We had no idea what this was.
There we go.
All right, so I'm going over to Universal Studios. I'm walking over, and I noticed a sign on the Cabana Bay restaurant, Bayliner Diner, that said the restaurant was going to be open until 3 a.m. for folks who stayed at Halloween Horror Nights because it closes at 2 a.m. And came back hungry. And my first thought, honest to God, Jim, was like, Disney would never do this. They would not. Anyway, I make it over to City Walk in a couple of minutes. No problems, no delays with the bus service. It's absolutely fine. Get through security, and I joined my friends over at Universal Studios. So we had 11 people. We ended up booking an RIP tour. Are you familiar with this?
Yes, yeah. So you did it all. Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah. So an RIP tour is like a regular VIP tour in that you get into whatever you want pretty much immediately. You get walked to the entrance of whatever it is because there's a tour guide who'll walk you there. It's $399 per person. It's expensive, but it's also the absolute fastest way to see all of the houses in one night. And you could probably see all of the houses in like 2 hours if you wanted to. It's that fast. I mean, there's no waiting. The other interesting thing is this. It comes with several food options. So there's one that starts about an hour before HHN opens, and that's a buffet upstairs. It's amazing.
Yep.
And then there's another one during the night that you can go into. You also get, again, the immediate entry into the rides. You also get access to ride and park areas that you would never get otherwise. So, for example, Jim, I didn't even know that there was a private bar over at Jimmy Fallon, and then a balcony.
Oh, yeah.
And first time ever, I got to see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. By the way, when they do like the Christmas concerts or the Mardi Gras, imagine being up there.
That was my first thought. Like, I need to see a concert here. Like, I need to stand here and watch a concert. It was amazing. And again, you can repeat the houses as many times as you want, which I don't think is an option with the other pass, which is the Express Pass. So the HHN Express Pass gets you into a shorter express line, figure on like a 5 to 15 minute wait there. But those passes are $190 to $230 plus tax, so also not cheap.
Yep.
And it's close enough to the Rip Tour cost that I think Rip Tour's the better value.
I think you're onto something there. I mean, especially if you factor in that you have the buffet at the start and then the nosh in the middle of the evening.
Oh yeah, and it really keeps you going too. And then you have to pay for drinks and stuff, or alcoholic drinks, but sodas and water are free. And again, it's Florida, it's still hot. You really want to get 4 or 5 bottles of water during the night. It just keeps you hydrated.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to my friend Rob, who organized our group and the tour. So most of these folks were the ones I did HHN with last year for the first time. So these are now, Jim, my HHN friends. So it's Rob, Mike, Lee, Ryan, Sammy, Joey, Derek, Andrew, Monica, and Jason. All right. Okay. So before I go over the houses, I'm going to go over the highlights of the houses. Let me just say, Jim, the first thing that our group did was to see the HHN show Nightmare Fuel Nocturnal Circus. Have you seen this show?
Oh, yeah. This is in, the old Wild Wild West Fear Factor stage?
Fear Factor stage, exactly. Yeah. Okay. And it's interesting that on the Universal map, they don't actually even give the name of the stage. It's just, they show that it's there, but there's no name for it. So it's rock music, very, very physically fit performers doing Cirque du Soleil-like dance and acrobatic moves. And Jim, so much fire. Oh. So much fire.
Yes. I mean, the last time I saw this thing, I kept thinking, why bother to pluck your eyebrows? Just go see Nightmare Fuel. When all facial hair will be, sort of trimmed back to a nice tight level from the excessive heat.
I mean, it's a bunch of very physically fit performers dancing around in lingerie. But I'm watching this show, Jim, and some of them are using like string to twirl flaming batons. Ugh. The only thing I can think of was how many times I would have already set myself on fire.
Oh, totally.
Totally. Yeah. And at one point, one of the performers is spun around like 20 feet in the air, but she's being held aloft by her hair. And I think there's fire. Like, who comes up with these ideas? I mean, whoever it is, that's somebody who's way more creative than us. Yeah. So hats off to them. Great concept, amazing performances. But Jim, let me just give you this tip: if you've never done this, you should watch this show with people from the actuarial and legal industry, because everyone in my group was from one of those two areas. And we walked out of the show, and honest to God, my first question was, what did you think? And everyone's first comment was, yeah, they've got to be self-insured. Nothing about the artistry, nothing about the music. It's like, yeah, they've got to be self-insured.
No. Again, you are not wrong. That it is just one of those shows where you walk out, it's like, oh my God, they must be stacking up the bodies backstage like cordwood.
I can just imagine them like in April, going over the show scenes with OSHA, and the people from OSHA just setting down their glasses and rubbing their temples going, okay, and what happens next?
Yes, absolutely. So.
Okay, then what? Okay. All right, anyway, it's just a fantastic show. There is absolutely nothing like it in theme parks. It was the highlight of my night. I loved every second of it. Hats off to everyone involved. 5 stars, no notes, right? And then we did all of the houses. Obviously, there are 10 of them. I'm not going to go through all 10. I'll give you some highlights. So Insidious was my number 1 house. This is the one, Jim, where I got scared 3 times in the same room.
I've been hearing about this
one.
Oh
my God.
I mean, again, it's like, it's over. No, it's not. It's over. No, it's not. It's like,
So I walk into this one room and I get a jump scare from the left. Somebody, and I was like, yeah, I'm already twitchy to begin with. But they have this, I don't know if it's new for this year or not, but I noticed it this year. So imagine you have a square clock face. Okay. So noon is sort of in the north position. 9 o'clock is west, south is 6 o'clock and so on. Okay. So I got scared coming from the left, and then I walked a little bit forward and I got scared by someone from my right, basically at the west or 9 o'clock position of the clock. Okay. And what I didn't realize from last year was that there are L-shaped cutouts now in these haunted houses where the same person can scare you at the 9 o'clock position. And then when you round the corner to the right, they move up to the 12 o'clock position and scare you again. I turned around. I'm like, I will get through this damn room. I don't care if it kills me. Like, I will make it through this one room. It was amazing. It was just really, really innovative stuff. I really liked it a lot.
Okay, so just to review, it's a step to the left and then a jump to the right. Len, that's the time warp.
It's the Halloween Horror Nights Dosito, right?
There we go. All right.
All right. It's my second house was Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I really like the Ghostbusters franchise. I thought the effects in this one were really, really good. A lot of cold stuff. You know.
Cool. Okay.
My third was Slaughter Cinema 2. It's a horror movie walkthrough. And so it's got cheesy horror movies, and I think, honest to God, Jim, Universal had a blast coming up with the fake horror movies. Yeah. Just a lot of fun. Yeah. Just a lot of fun. And I'm going to say, and this is where I disagreed with everyone else in my group, my fourth favorite house was this one called Major Sweets Candy Factory, which is a tour through a candy factory gone wrong. Ask me how wrong, Jim.
How wrong, Len?
Let me put it this way. There are a surprising number of axes in the shipping room. I'm just saying. It's Willy Wonka levels of injuries is where I'm going with here.
Wow. Okay. So you got to see small girls pulled apart by squirrels? All right.
They're just a remarkable amount of blood for a candy factory. Okay. Anyway, a couple of tips to summarize this. Book the RIP tour, the Express Pass option. If you want to see all the houses in one night, definitely stay on site. It's way easier at the end of the night. Book 2 nights at Universal Orlando, the night you check in and the night after the event. It allows you to sleep in and recover without having to drive home. Don't miss the Nightmare Fuel Nocturnal Circus Show. Best theme park show in Orlando. I don't know that I could even name anything that would be in second place. It's kind of in a category of its own. Okay. And then book early. Like I said, I got my room and ticket in April. But also, remember that you booked this because the night before I left, so on Thursday before my Friday show, I was like, I don't know if I have a ticket for this thing. And instead of logging into Universal's app and seeing if I had a ticket, I just bought another ticket. So I had 2. Okay. All right. One more quick bit of news over at Disney's Animal Kingdom. Jim, I don't know if you've heard this, but word around the watering hole is that phased closures of Dinoland will begin before the holidays. So get your rides in soon.
I'm hearing last hurrah Thanksgiving weekend or thereabouts. Is that what you're hearing, or
that's roughly the timeline? Yeah, maybe slightly beyond that, but not. Okay. But that's same thing. Yeah.
Okay, duly noted.
All right, Jim. On to surveys. So Universal has released a new survey, Jim. And it's fantastic. I'm not going to name the folks who sent it in, and I want to go over it here. But the beginning of the survey says that I can't share it. So I'm going to need all of you to pinky promise not to talk about this new Universal survey to anyone. Jim, I need a promise here.
Okay, there we go. Pinky. All right. Okay.
All right. Quick note to Universal's survey team. This warning might be more effective if you have a photo of the pumpkin Little Boo holding a knife with the caption, "Snitches get stitches." You might want to try that next time. I'm just saying. Okay.
There we go.
All right. But this is another example of a really well-designed survey by the Universal Orlando team. It's just a fantastic job here, folks. So you can really tell how the survey methodology has improved in the last couple of years. So whoever's leading that team should pass out chocolate bars all around. All right. So here's the first interesting question. Below, you'll find different attributes that could be considered thrilling. Please rank these items in terms of how thrilling they would be to a theme park guest, with the most thrilling attribute at the top ranked number 1. And the attributes are launches, elevated G-forces, inversions, drops, speed, unexpected movements, spinning, speed, and drops. So drops real and drops simulated, two different ones there.
Yep, and actually they did the same thing with speed. The real speed and simulated.
Oh, right, speed, real speed and simulated speed. Right, sorry about that. Yeah, so real and simulated. Yeah. Also, there's a series of questions that uses those terms to get you to define what you mean by thrill ride. And I want you to notice when I talk about this, there are really 2 things going on here. One, you're defining the spectrum of thrill in 5 categories, from none to extreme. Also, you're telling Universal which ride elements go with each category. So this is an XY axis type of thing, and you're basically defining both of them for Universal. It's a great question for a couple of reasons. Number one, it helps Universal determine what kind of effects to put in each level of ride. And not for nothing, Jim, it tells Universal how to advertise that ride, right?
Yeah, it's clever. Okay,
so remember the x-axis here is no thrill, low thrill, moderate thrill, high thrill, and extreme thrill. And then the y-axis is things like spinning, So is spinning a no-thrill thing, a low-thrill thing, a moderate thrill, and so on. So it's spinning, speed real, speed simulated, launches, drops real, drops simulated, unexpected movement, stuff like that. But you categorize them in. So basically, sort of Universal knows that an extreme thrill ride has inversions, elevated G-forces, real drops, and things like that. That's really, really, really neat.
Okay.
And here's the survey gets even more interesting because the next question is, how do you define the level of thrill at specific Walt Disney World rides?
Ooh. Okay.
So the first one up is Journey into Imagination with Figment.
Okay.
To our credit, every survey I've seen says this is a no-thrill ride, right?
Okay.
But then Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. So would you say that that's a low-thrill, moderate thrill, high thrill, or extreme thrill ride? And then Carousel of Progress, which I think is just there to make sure that everyone's sober. That's taking the... It does spin.
Yep.
It does spin. I'll give you that. Then a bunch of other rides, Star Tours, Dinosaur, and so on. And then once you answered those, so Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run is one of those, then you get a follow-up question that's even more detailed, and it asks this. Would any of the following attractions be considered the same type as Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run? So remember, if you said Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run is a low-thrill, moderate-thrill, or high-thrill ride, right? The next question is select all of these attractions that fit in the same category. And it's everything from the high-in-the-sky Seuss Trolley to Soarin', to Big Thunder Mountain, to Guardians of the Galaxy, and so on. So it's Disney and Universal rides here. But it asks you to say, these are all the things in the same category. And Jim, I think from a competitive analysis perspective, this basically allows you to say, I think all of these rides are the same kind of thing, right?
Yeah. I'm kind of intrigued to see in the pile. I mean, it's a lot of Disney, but at the same time, you've got Fast and Furious Supercharged and High in the Sky Seuss Trolley. Face it, we have heard that both of those attractions are being eyeballed for replacement. So anyway, okay.
Also, quick note to the Universal survey team, Splash Mountain still listed there. It probably needs to be Tiana's Bio Adventure.
There you go. Okay.
All right. Next, you get 2 open-ended text box questions. The first one is, we'd like to talk to you about thrill rides. In your opinion, what parts of a ride create a thrilling experience? And it's open-ended. So you can say things like speed, drops, launches, stuff like that. And then another open-ended question. How would you categorize each of the following attractions? Please enter in the box below the type of attraction each of these are. So, again, things like Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, Carousel of Progress, and so on. And I love this set of questions because it serves multiple purposes. If you use positive words, right, it can reinforce to Universal that you like that ride or the specific aspects of the ride that you like.
There we go.
And then if everyone rates the ride highly or low, right, it tells Universal's marketing team which words you use to describe those very high and very low rated rides.
Boy, this is not to belabor the obvious here, but this is so smart to do this now out ahead of the opening of Epic Universe, because think about, that they're finaling all of the ride descriptions and that sort of thing for that park right now. Right,
ride descriptions, marketing, but not only that. I mean, I'm fairly certain that, I've heard there's already a Phase 2 expansion being planned. Yeah, so this will help them with that.
Okay.
You get another series of questions asking how you would rate various Disney and Universal rides from very poor to excellent, which again for marketing. Here's a question that I don't think we've seen before though. Take a series of attractions. So in this case, it's Mission Space, Big Thunder, Fast and Furious, Magic Carpets of Light, and so on. And the question is this. You get 4 choices. Which one do you think is most appropriate for you? And the question is this, like for Mission Space or Big Thunder. I know every twist and turn in that ride. Or I remember a lot of the experience, but not necessarily every detail. Or I remember some of it. Or I don't remember this thing at all. So it's how memorable the ride is. Yeah.
Okay. What do we make of that question?
I think here they're trying to figure, and I could be wrong. So if somebody from Universal wants to tell us differently, but I think here it's the same set of attractions that we've been asked about previously. So the question would be, yeah, these things are thrilling, but is it also memorable? Because I think, Jim, here's what they're going for is word of mouth when you get back home.
There we go. Okay, now got it. All right, cool.
Because it's one thing to say, oh my God, I went on this ride, it was fantastic. But the follow-up question from your friends at home is going to be, what made it fantastic? And if you can't remember the ride details, it's not as convincing. Right?
All true. Okay.
All right. There's an open-ended question about the expectations for your ride experience at Universal and whether it's similar or different than the Walt Disney Resort. So when you go to Universal and when you go to Disney, how are your ride experiences similar and how are they different? I think this should be an SAT question. Compare and contrast the ride experience at Universal.
Okay.
If we really want our children to be educated, Jim, I'm just saying.
There we go. Okay.
There's a question about pairs of statements about different types of theme park attractions, and then you have to use a dot scale, like a 7-point Likert scale, to say the position that best indicates which statement you prefer. So, for example, one is I prefer rides and attractions that use physical environment effects, or I prefer rides and attractions that use visual effects. So, same thing with high-speed thrilling rides versus immersive scenic rides, and so on. There's a question about how you enjoy thrill rides. So, like, I tend to get motion sickness. I enjoy thrilling rides, and so on. There's a couple other questions, and then we'll be done. But this one is this: what are the 3 worst rides you've ever experienced? Don't worry, you won't hurt our feelings if any of these rides are at Universal.
Okay.
So you're supposed to name the ride and then what makes it the worst ride. And so one of the respondents listed Fast and Furious Supercharged, Skull Island, Reign of Kong, and Race Through New York with Jimmy Fallon. And honest to God, I could say the same thing. Like, those are not great rides.
But what's interesting is, Len, if you look at those are all things that were added to the Universal Orlando Resort in the past 10 years. I mean, they're all relatively recent adds, and more to the point, big physical plants built for all of those. So, kind of interesting that those are the 3 that got offered up.
I note that there are also screen-based rides.
Well, there is that too. Yep.
And this could be a case of screen fatigue. Like, once if you've done 3 of these, let's say you've gone from Race Through New York with Jimmy Fallon to Fast and Furious, because they're relatively close to each other, right? If the second, whatever you do second, it's like, oh my God, another screen ride, right?
Yeah, excellent point. Okay.
Similar question on what are the 3 best rides you've experienced, and then what about them makes them the best. I love the next one because, Jim, it's a slider. We love sliders. It's thinking just about Universal Orlando and Walt Disney World. Which park would you say you prefer? Move the slider to the appropriate position. Love it.
Okay.
Love it.
Okay.
Love a slider. All right, last question. And this one is bizarre. And I really wanted to focus on this one. But here's the question. Below is a list of various theme park attractions and activities. How would you rate the amount of each item at Universal Orlando? So there are things like, dark rides, 3D simulators, stage shows, things like that. But Jim, the last thing on this list, and again, your categories here are way too many, slightly too many, just about right, slightly too little, and way too long. So that's your category. The last thing on this list is Chinese intellectual property and content. Jim, I have no idea why that question is there. Is there any Chinese IP in a domestic Universal theme park?
I am trying to think. That's interesting. I wonder if that's a residual artifact from the international version of this a survey, because
originally when I got the first survey, I'm like, okay, this is that that canary in a coal mine question that tells Universal whether you're actually paying attention. But then everybody got this question, and I'm like, there's no way there's a Boonie Bears land in Epic Universe, right? This is the deep cut show, Jim.
Len, it's at moments like this. You're upstairs inside of Jimmy Fallon out on that balcony. You should have gone around and rattled some doors. It's like, hey, all right, Booty Bear Land. I knew it. Like,
always try the locked doors. Always try that. That's what I forgot. That was
there
my thing.
Go.
All right.
So.
And the only other thing I could think of here, because we're Chinese intellectual property. I don't think there's any in a Universal theme park. But last night I was kind of turning this over in my head. I'm like, please don't tell me that Americans think Nintendo is Chinese. My medication doesn't cover that scenario.
Okay.
Don't tell me that.
No. All right. I'm going with the residual artifact from international survey.
It's got to be. It's got to be.
Okay.
Fair enough. All right. Anyway, on to listener questions. So a whole bunch of you wrote in after last week's interview with Ricky Debler, Jr., the Vice President of Business Development for Palmas. And I got more mail from all of you all about how great that interview was than on anything we've done in years. So thank you all for that, and thank you to Ricky, and also grab a bite to eat at the Mexico Pavilion when you're there.
Cool.
All right, Jim. Andy G writes in with this. He says, Len, has anyone showed you the TikTok videos of the Death Eaters at Universal Orlando? Because it has blown up like crazy over there as these book talk girlies are out there living their fantasies. And I've included a link to the TikTok in the show notes. So it's basically a Death Eater putting the moves on a girl, but it's staying in character and doing it. So Andy continues. I mean, the Death Eaters are a little self-aware now, but let me tell you, those first videos and all of these girls, me included, Len, no shame. Andy, there's no shame in a theme park. Are like, sweet Lord, it's a romance novel come to life. And now they're flocking. They're hoping for this reaction. So, and you...
Well, what?
I tried to read that comment in the breathless style that Andy sent it, but let me just say, the TikTok comments on that video, Jim, are hilarious. Like, one comment is like, okay, so after this happens, I'd be asking, so what are we?
Well, but again, in the romance novel world, think about it. A Death Eater, the ultimate bad boy.
Yes, no, yeah.
I met him and I turned him around.
It's just a hilarious video. Andy, thank you for sending it in. I love it. All right. And then a couple of related questions. The first one from Tom Biglin, who says, on a Disney Dish episode, Len, can you go over the best way to use a custom touring plan with a very dynamic landscape caused by ever-changing lightning lanes? And then a similar question from Justin Ross, who says, here's a couple of tips I've gleaned from reading up on how the new lightning lane rules work. And Justin says two things. One, book as early as possible in the morning, even if it's a group 2 attraction, just to start the process of getting more lightning lanes in a park. And let me just say that as an example, if that's not familiar to you, a group 2 attraction is the second most popular set of attractions. So like the Seas with Nemo and Friends in Epcot, you could book that actually right at park opening, then just tap into that on your way to your real first attraction. And then on your way there, you can actually book another group 1 attraction on your way to whatever it is you're seeing first. So that's the tip that Justin means here.
Oh, cool.
And I've seen people do this actually, and I didn't think of it until I didn't think to mention it on the show until Justin said it. But okay, and the second tip is this: you actually have 3 hours to redeem your lightning lane, including a 2-hour grace period after your lightning lane expires. So you can technically book another lightning lane for attraction B as soon as the one for attraction A expires, and you still have 2 more hours to ride attraction A using the lightning lane. So this is definitely also true. You have a 2-hour grace period, but let me just mention 3 things here. 1, Disney can change that policy at any time. 2, when you're making touring plans at scale like us, where we're making millions of touring plans per year, you would be surprised at the number of people who absolutely positively do not want to assume any grace period at all under any circumstances. They just don't trust it if it's not in writing from Disney, which I get. So that's from it's really, and so it kind of guides how much of a grace period we can assume. Anyway, but here's what's more interesting. So I think I've talked about this on the show before, but I've been in the parks with Chrissy and our other researchers and Amy, where we're riding the same rides over and over again, and we're just counting the number of people who get in line minute by minute at certain Magic Kingdom rides, right? This 2-hour grace period, though, has a noticeable effect on standby wait times in the Magic Kingdom after the afternoon parade. And what happens is this: Disney allows the people whose lightning lanes expire during the parade to hop in the lightning lane as soon as the parade ends. And that drives up the standby wait dramatically. So, for example, at Peter Pan a couple of weeks ago, we were riding over and over again, the actual wait time almost doubled from 27 minutes to 52 minutes in 18 minutes from 2:17 p.m. to 2:35 p.m. once the parade ended. And so what that means basically is the lightning lane line admitted the entire ride capacity for 18 minutes in those 18 minutes.
Okay.
I know. It's really interesting. The other interesting thing was this. Chrissy was somewhere in the Peter Pan queue. I was just getting in. And one of the things that I noticed was there were no people standing in the standby line at the merge point for Peter Pan. And I'm like, so I'm texting Chrissy. I'm like, what's going on? And she said, they're holding us inside the house so we don't get out. And this was right after the parade ended. And Jim, here's what I think is going on. I think, you know, when the lightning lane backs up, the cast members can take 99 lightning lane guests for every one standby.
Yeah.
Right.
Not my favorite thing.
No, they were trying to pump people through the lightning lane, though. And what they didn't want is for the standby guests to see that preferential treatment, because later on when you get a survey, you're like, oh, this thing sucks. You know, I can't believe that you're making everybody pay for this. So I think it's a guest satisfaction thing that they're doing to hold people where they can't even see the preferential treatment. That's what I think is going on.
That's actually pretty smart. Okay. Yep.
All right, cool. One last question. And Jim, this is for you. It's from Aaron Carlson, who says, with the new Universal Kids theme park on the way, is it possible Disney could watch how that goes and make a kids theme park on Walt Disney World property? What do you think?
What's interesting about this is that Disney has actually looked in the exact opposite direction. It has looked down the road at Discovery Cove, at SeaWorld, and the notion of adults paying top dollar for a very high-touch experience that includes food and relaxation and that sort of thing. And that's why in the early 2000s, we saw Disney working on the Night Kingdom Shangri-La project with the notion that, you know, this was something that adults who could afford it, I mean, 1,500 people at a time, could have this like 5-hour long experience. And it could then be used during the day as a corporate offering. The notion if you have your convention in town, you can book time at the Shangri-La or Night Kingdom for a team building exercise or as a treat, step away. But in regard to building a kids only park, I think you and I have talked about this previously, that would then cannibalize the Magic Kingdom, to a lesser extent the studios. And that's just not some. I mean, hell, if you look at what Disney's about to invest in the kingdom between the Road Rally and Villains Land, I mean, you know, they're going in the exact opposite direction. They're expanding that park. So, no, I think the not short answer is no. I don't see Disney going in that direction. And more to the point, remember, the thing that Universal is building in Texas, this is a regional park. This is literally, we're going after this specific market, and this is kind of a trial balloon to see what happens here. Do people respond to this? And if so, is this a concept we can open up in other parts of the country?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think one of the things we talked about when Universal announced the park in Texas was that by focusing on kids, it was almost guaranteed not to cannibalize very much, if any, of the traditional demographic for Universal Orlando. The other thing I was trying to figure out, speaking of cannibalization, was let's suppose you did build or Disney did build a kids park in Orlando. What franchises do you put in the kids park that you wouldn't put in like Hollywood Studios?
That's it exactly. Yeah. And if you think about, they've already got their Disney Junior show, which has the meet and greet sort of built onto the outside of that thing.
Right. I mean, you because it's really hard now to say, you know, which, setting aside the Animal Kingdom, right? Between Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and Hollywood Studios, could you honestly say that you understand the way that Disney differentiates which franchises go in which park?
It's once upon a time there was actually, for example, the newest Disney films, the characters were always introduced at Disney MGM Studios. And then once they had proven themselves, once that's a hit film, people are invested in that, then the idea was these characters would then go to live at the Magic Kingdom. I think over time that plan, I mean, that was something I remember folks talking about in the early 90s, that's fallen by the wayside, but that was the original battle plan. So
but But like Remy and Guardians specifically went into Epcot without any sort of trial in Hollywood Studios.
No. Though remember, Remy did part of that living character initiative.
Oh, right. Yeah.
In fact, come to think of it, they did the same thing with Groot. But at the same time, when it came time, it's like, no, that's nice, but we're doing a ride. So
that's what I think. I think executives look at this and say, we've got 3 years to build Epcot needs a brand new ride. We've got 3 years to do it. What's the hottest franchise we could plausibly put into Epcot?
There you go.
And do that. All right.
Okay.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Jim starts on the history of Mickey's PhilharMagic. We'll be right back.
Hey y'all, Marcy Martin here with a little Tampax story. One time I went on vacation in the Bahamas with some friends, and of course I got my period. I didn't want anything to stop me from living my best life on my trip, so I was like, why not be brave and try Tampax? Before that, I really just thought tampons were for adults, and I definitely thought they'd be uncomfortable. Guess what, y'all? They really aren't. It might take a few tries, but once it's in right, you shouldn't feel it, which is great. For a better way to period, just add Tampax.
This short break from civilization is brought to you by the Ford Bronco. Get back out there. The Ford Bronco. Built wild. Learn more at Ford.com/Bronco.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be. To be.
And we're back. All right, Jim, I am super excited about this because we've never done a deep dive into Mickey's PhilharMagic or the related shows. So this is a first for us.
Yeah, but again, it's one of those slightly convoluted stories. I mean, to tell the story.
Is there any other kind? Is there another kind? There's another kind of story.
I guess.
I just assume that everything we talk about starts out like the Iliad and the Odyssey. Right?
There we go.
There's a part one. There's a part two. People die along the way. Whatever.
Kind of the James Michener technique. You want to talk about Texas? We got to start with dinosaurs. Okay. Anyway. Well, to tell the Mickey's PhilharMagic story, we got to jump back to 1967, 1968. Roy O. Disney, as he's now signing off on what's going to be built at Walt Disney World, they show him the storyboards and models for the Mickey Mouse Revue. And he looks at this and goes, Walt would have loved this. This is the exact sort of attraction we need to build at Walt Disney World. Go ahead and build that, guys. And what's also nice about that is there's actually an interview out there from 1962, Len, in the early days of animatronics, where Walt literally in front of a reporter spitballs, yeah, I'd love to do a show with the characters, that you're there and watch them perform a concert and maybe have some of the characters in the theater heckle them or that sort of thing. But anyway, so Roy, a fan of the show, which features 75 different animatronic figures, that opens in the park October of 71. Now, on the other hand, if you talked to Dick Nunis, who we've discussed on this show repeatedly in the past, he's the Disneyland veteran who flew out from California in late 1970 to do everything humanly possible, right up to and including threats of physical violence, Len, to get Walt Disney World open on time. Nunis did not like the Mickey Mouse Revue.
Really?
Yeah.
Like from a theme perspective or what?
Well, from an operational point of view, because here's the thing. All it would take to shut down this Fantasyland show for the entire day was if one of the lead figures in the Mickey Mouse Revue, and we're talking about Snow White or the fairy godmother from Cinderella, or even just one of the Three Little Pigs, if that was not operating properly, the entire attraction had to be shut down so the technicians could then climb up on stage and pop the hood and find out why Mickey, as the conductor, wasn't working properly.
Oh, and these, I mean, we're still in like generation, 2 of audio animatronics?
Oh,
these are...
Yeah.
These are hydraulic. They're operating on oil.
Yeah, they are hard to maintain, which is why, Len, when the Oriental Land Company is touring Disneyland out in Anaheim, as well as the Magic Kingdom of Florida, and they then, again, they're building their list of ride shows and attractions that they want to have replicated at the theme park they're going to build along the edge of Tokyo Bay. When these executives voiced said, "Hey, we'd like to have a clone of the Mickey Mouse Revue," Nunis is like, "Oh no! You can have the real one. All right,
we'll give you this one."
There we go. And so, they shut down this Fantasyland attraction in September of 1980s, and all of its AA figures get packed up, crated up, and shipped off to Japan, where then they're reassembled and debut with the rest of Tokyo Disneyland in April of 1983. And by the way, when this attraction was still operating at that park, it looked pristine, like opening day.
I was going to ask, did it work in Japan? Of course it did.
Of course.
They're
No,
going to do whatever it takes.
Every night they had technicians climbing all over this thing, making sure. But on the other hand, that theater in Florida's version of Fantasyland, where the Mickey Mouse Revue had been, stood empty and unused land for more than 7 years. Until Randy Bright came up with, all right, hang on. No. To tell this story properly, we have to back up a bit. To the opening of Epcot in October of 82. Journey into Imagination, the ride-through attraction for this Future World Pavilion, running way behind schedule, having operational issues. They can't get the turntable to work, and the couple sections of track they literally have to take out and redo. So it won't open till the public, actually till March 15th of the following year, some 5.5 months after Walt Disney World's second gate opens. But what was up and running in time for Epcot's opening day, just barely, and we'll get to that in a moment, was Magic Journeys, which was this 3D movie that ran in the theater portion of the Imagination Pavilion, 16 minutes long, directed by experimental filmmaker Murray Lerner, who, by the way, Len, in 1979, took home an Oscar for Best Documentary for From Mao to Mozart, Isaac Stern in China.
Okay.
I
kind of missed that one on Disney Plus, but okay. But Jim, you say he's an experimental filmmaker, and I didn't know that when I saw Magic Journeys, but that goes a long way towards explaining a lot of things. Because the beginning of that film
does it, Len? Oh, yes, very much so. But, okay, now we have to speak honestly about Magic Journeys, which was mildly entertaining, with the accent here on the word mild. And this is a polite way of saying that Magic Journeys doesn't have any Disney characters. And because of that, Epcot guests would typically view this 3D movie once and then not go back for a second viewing. Which is why when Michael Eisner comes through the door as the new CEO of the Walt Disney Company, fall of '84, he almost immediately identifies Magic Journeys as something that needs to be replaced by something far more exciting and entertaining. Which, again, why we got Captain EO in September of 1986. Which isn't to say, Len, that for a time, anyway, Magic Journeys didn't spread its wings in the early 1980s and then fly off to other Disney theme parks around the globe for limited engagements. For example, starting in June of '84, this 3D movie would be screened outside at night in the Tomorrowland Space Stage in Anaheim, which was a venue that sat 1,100 people at a time.
Really?
Yep.
They did it outdoors in Disneyland.
At night. But what was interesting is because this outdoor theater at Disneyland proved that it could be a venue where 3D movies could be successfully screened, Space Stage gets demolished in 1985 and is then turned into the Magic Eye Theater. And that now enclosed venue becomes Anaheim's home to Captain EO.
Wait, that's how we got Captain EO in Disneyland through Magic Journeys being screened outdoors?
There you go. Okay.
What?
Yep. All right. Now,
did not know that. Okay. All right. By the way, Jim, in the show notes, I put YouTube link to Magic Journeys.
There we go. So now everybody can go, well, that's nice.
Wow.
There we go. Okay.
Wow. It was the 80s. We were easily entertained in the 80s, guys.
We were very easily entertained. All right. Now, meanwhile, over at Tokyo Disneyland, The Eternal Sea, which was this 200-degree film that had opened with the rest of the park in April of 83. And by the way, folks, if you're having trouble picturing what a 200-degree movie at a Disney theme park would be like, this is the exact same film format, physical setup of Impressions de France at Epcot.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so really, really wide
there we go.
Screen. Okay.
So back to Eternal Sea at Tokyo Disney Sea, which failed to connect with visitors at the theme park, which is why September 1984, just 17 months after this 200-degree movie first began to be presented, gets its plug pulled, and then January of the following year, 1985, following a 4-month-long rehab, that then becomes the Japanese home to Magic Journeys. But, as we mentioned earlier, by 1986, both stateside versions of Magic Journeys have been shut down to make room for Captain EO. By the way, Len, the Oriental Land Company guys, they want proof that this Michael Jackson thing is actually going to take off. So they don't necessarily get on board right away. They literally waited until the folks in Burbank could send them photos of the 5-hour-long line at Disneyland that stretched down Main Street. And they're like, okay, all right, now we're on board. Okay, never mind. All right,
fine.
We'll do this. Okay, so let's now circle back on the Mickey Mouse Revue Theater at Walt Disney World, which again, remind you, closed September of 1980, and so this is 1986. It's been closed for more than 6.5 years at this point, and this very valuable piece of real estate in the middle of the park, just sitting there, and which did not go unnoticed by veteran Imagineer Randy Bright. Randy, by the way, is somebody that Marty Sklar personally recruited to come work for the company in 1968. They were staffing up for Walt Disney World, and by 1987, this guy has risen up through the ranks to the point that he's now executive producer for both Walt Disney World and Disneyland Park, which means that Randy's the guy who's now developing ride shows and attractions for the company's theme parks on both coasts. And the other thing you need to know here, Len, is that Randy, back in the early 1980s, he was the executive producer on Magic Journeys. In fact, he was the guy who constantly nudged Murray, our experimental filmmaker, who, by the way, Len, notoriously slow.
It's a process, Jim. It's a process. Let the process work.
Well, but this is the thing. The process in this case was so down to the wire. They had the print for this film on a plane flying out from California the day before it's supposed to begin screening.
Tons of time.
All right. Anyway, it genuinely bugged Randy that the Imagineers had worked so hard on Magic Journey. I mean, even going so far as to build special camera rigs just for individual shots in this 3D movie.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, for example, the kite shot that everybody remembers from this film, how the kite was...
Kids running with the kites, yeah.
That's right. And it looks like it's in front of your face, and you can't help yourself. You reach out, try to touch it. Anyway, this film had such a ridiculously short run at the Disney theme parks. It only ran for 3.5 years in Florida, 2.5 years and change in California, and then only 19 months in Japan.
Amazing.
And meanwhile, Magic Kingdom managers are The Imagineers come to them with ideas for possible replacements for the Mickey Mouse Revue, and the Magic Kingdom managers look at Eisner as like, do you want that? And it's like, I want something thrilling.
The thing is, too, like at this point in Eisner's career, Magic Kingdom attendance is growing really, really fast.
Yep.
And you've got this, many 100-seat theater smack dab in the middle of the park that's going unused. It's got to drive park ops crazy.
No, that's it exactly. But at the same time, nobody can agree. I mean, it's like, yes, we all agree should be some sort of a thrilling thing in this spot, but at the same time, it's got to fit the Fantasyland section of the park, and what story or what IP would do that. And so again, back to Randy again, feeling bad about all this work, all this effort. Magic Journeys has a very short run of the Disney parks worldwide. Mickey Mouse Revue Theater about to begin its 7th year of standing there empty.
You know what? Something's better than nothing.
Well, no, this is it exactly. So this is when Randy has his peanut butter and chocolate epiphany. It's like, wait a minute. Okay. I got a theater standing empty in the Fantasyland in the Magic Kingdom, and I got a 3D movie that's no longer running at any Disney theme park around the globe. And why don't we just start showing Magic Journeys in this facility as a stopgap?
Exactly.
Until Magic Kingdom managers and Eisners can actually agree on what they want to go in as a permanent replacement.
Talk about Randy knowing his audience. Jeez. Okay.
But now here's the interesting part. Then he runs this idea by Walt Disney World executives, and they are initially hesitant because they've seen Magic Journeys.
Okay, all right, fair.
It's kind of a snooze,
But here's the thing: we've seen this film.
Yeah. Okay. But Randy said not to worry. It turns out we, as a studio, made this great 3D Donald Duck cartoon.
The kicker, yeah. Okay, what's the cartoon?
It's called Working for Peanuts, and in fact, you can watch it today on YouTube, and you get a sense of Disney doing 3D and animation. They did a great job, but this thing, they made it back in November of 1953, and it's been sitting in the vault since. And Randy's like, look, it's really, really funny, and it's got lots of great 3D effects. So if we pair this 7-minute long short with the 16-minute long Magic Journeys, people are sure to be entertained. And more to the point, we can run a new audience through this theater every half hour, which will then add to the Magic Kingdom's hourly capacity. And to their credit, Magic Kingdom managers saw the wisdom of what Randy was pitching here. And so this is why December 15th, 1987, Magic Journeys begins playing on a double bill with Working for Peanuts at the Magic Kingdom. And the complete irony of this storyline is this stopgap only supposed to be a temporary solution to this theme park's what the hell are we going to put in Mickey Mouse Revue Theater problem. It turns out to be Magic Journey's longest continuous engagement at any Disney theme park.
Jim, there is absolutely no way on God's green earth that Randy did not know what he was doing there. He can tell me himself and I won't believe him. Okay. He knew what he was doing there. Okay. Smart, man. Good management there. All right.
Okay, but this 3D movie winds up playing at the Magic Kingdom from December of 1987 through December of 1993. Almost a full 6-year run.
I remember making a special trip to make it to right when it closed, right before it closed.
Did you really? Okay.
So, really did.
So you can verify this, that again, audiences of the Magic Kingdom were still only mildly entertained by Magic Journeys, but these same guests would laugh out loud at Working for Peanuts. They'd howl as Donald Duck did Battle in 3D with Chip and Dale, which is something that the Imagineers took note of. That, hey, the audiences in the Magic Kingdom really seem to enjoy seeing Donald Duck in 3D in the old Mickey Mouse Revue Theater, which is an idea that maybe we should revisit in a decade or so. So, next week's show, we will then talk about how we went from Magic Journeys to Legend of the Lion King to finally Mickey's PhilharMagic with its apple pie and jasmine scents.
It's kind of amazing that we're talking about like 35 years here and there have only been 3 attractions.
Oh, yeah.
In this theater. You would think that it would cycle through, but again, if you've got a 10, 15 or 20 year depreciation cycle,
no.
You kind of understand it. But Magic Journeys. Yeah. I remember seeing Magic Journeys in Fantasyland, and I mean, I was still young back then, but I remember thinking, this is a bit conceptual for this this audience, right? But the Donald Duck thing, yeah, I mean, that was very entertaining for what it was. We all knew it was an older film, but it was still, because it was in 3D, and it was still left. Yeah, so it was a stopgap measure, but they found a little nugget that they could expand on it.
Absolutely, and that's ultimately just what you need. It's just sort of like they responded to that. Let's do that, only bigger, longer, better.
And that's why sometimes you've got to experiment in theme parks to see what to test your ideas and see what people like.
Absolutely.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for the show today. You can help support our show by subscribing over at patreon.com/JimHillMedia, where we're posting exclusive shows every week. Our most recent show discusses how the movie Mulan got made. You can find more of Jim at jimhillmedia.com and more of me, Len, at touringplans.com. We're produced spectacularly by Eric Hersey and David Gray, who'll be piloting their hot air balloon Land of Enchantment at the 2024 Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, powered by ExxonMobil. A little scared by that. Starting this weekend, October 5th, and running until October 13th, 2024, at Balloon Fiesta Park on Alameda Boulevard Northeast in beautiful downtown Albuquerque, New Mexico. While Eric and David are doing that, please go on to iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We'll see you on the next show.